Bethesda and Xbox sitting on a tree. Why did I make that dirty? I don't know. Anyway, many of you will probably know that Xbox and Bethesda have made headlines after their partnership turned into a melding of the two, as Xbox has officially acquired Bethesda, and Bethesda is now a part of Microsoft. We knew about this months ago, but it wasn't until recently that became official, and Microsoft and Bethesda and Xbox are able to actually start doing the things that they want to do together, enacting the plans that they have. And so to give the community an update on what their plans are for the future, they've gone ahead and released this roundtable video yesterday on March 11th, 2021, where they discussed a number of topics. And they were vague about some things because they're still biding their time and waiting until they blow the lid wide open on what people are really most excited about. But they did make a few announcements that are already getting people excited. For example, apparently Xbox will host a summer event that will include more Bethesda news. I am thinking that this might be the summer where we finally see a blowout for Starfield, and I think the game may potentially end up coming out fall of this year in time for the holidays of 2021. I think they're going to pull a Fallout 4 where they announce the game or really blow the lid open on it just a few months before its launch. Next, the general sentiment surrounding Xbox Game Pass is rather positive. It's just such a good value, such a low price point per month for the number of games you gain access to, and that value just got better because Xbox announced that 20 Bethesda games will be coming to Xbox Game Pass today on March 12th, and you can see the full list right here. You've got Dishonored, Doom, Fallout, Prey, Rage, Elder Scrolls, Evil Within, Wolfenstein, and all of these except for New Vegas are available both on console and PC, and many of these are also available on the cloud, and you can find the full list right here for those who are curious about that. But yeah, if you're a Game Pass subscriber, I mean, you just got a bunch of new games, and many of these are pretty compelling. I, for example, have never played Prey, but now that it's on Game Pass, I have more incentive to download the game and play it as soon as possible. I hear great things about it. Another benefit that Bethesda games are getting soon is that apparently many of them will begin leveraging Xbox's frame rate boost technology so that games like Dishonored, Fallout, and Prey can run at 60 FPS on consoles rather than being locked at 30. Obviously, if you have a high-end PC, then this won't matter to you, but for console players who are looking for these games to take advantage of the hardware fidelity that the new Xbox consoles offer, there you go. Perhaps what people are most curious about with this partnership is how Xbox is handling Bethesda games' exclusivity. Here's an article by Game Informer that transcribed exactly what Phil said, and I'd like to read this to you guys. So obviously I can't sit here and say every Bethesda game is exclusive, because we know that's not true. There are contractual obligations that we are going to see through. He's probably talking about games like Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo, which have already committed to being PS5 exclusive, so those games will be coming out on that platform. Going back to the statement, Phil Spencer talked about how we always do in every one of these instances, we have games that exist on other platforms, and we're going to support those games on the platforms they are on. And even in the future, there might be things that have either contractual things or legacy on different platforms that will do. But if you're an Xbox customer, the thing I want you to know is that this is about delivering great exclusive games for you that ship on platforms where Game Pass exists. And that's our goal. That's why we're doing this. That's the root of this partnership that we're building, and the creative capability we'll be able to bring to market for Xbox customers is going to be the best it's ever been for Xbox after we're done here. Save for a few special occasions, the main intent here is to make these Bethesda games exclusive to Xbox and Game Pass. It is my belief that many of these franchises right here will be Xbox exclusive for future releases. Now, I am curious as to whether Starfield has any contractual obligations with other platforms, if that game signed any deals before the Microsoft and Xbox acquisition of Bethesda, or whether Starfield will end up being an Xbox exclusive. It is worth noting that in the Starfield trailer, they didn't officially announce which platforms the game was coming out on, so there's still wiggle room for them to just straight up announce that Starfield will be exclusive to Xbox Series X, S, Windows, and Game Pass. And the game will come out on Game Pass on day one. Now, we can talk all about Game Pass implementation, FPS boost, exclusivity, you name it, but none of that will mean much if Bethesda games' quality don't ultimately benefit from this partnership, and Todd Howard did actually speak to that during the roundtable as detailed by news outlet PC Gamer here. He specifically referenced Fallout 76, the disastrous launch surrounding that game, and hoping that this newfound partnership will help mitigate something like that ever happening again. So here's an exact quote from Todd Howard as relayed by this article. When the game launched, referring to Fallout 76, the litany of issues we had, and we let a lot of people down, and well, there was very little we didn't screw up, honestly. Yup, no arguments here. Everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. The technical issues only scratched the surface. The game itself, from a conceptual level, was just poorly conceived and implemented. The lack of NPCs was a major sticking point, and the game across the board felt incomplete, unpolished, and like this is a rough early access, at best. And things have gotten a lot better since, but that doesn't make the initial launch of Fallout 76 in any way, shape, or form acceptable. Todd Howard once tried to excuse this by stating in an interview with IGN that it's not how a game launches, it's how a game ends up. It's what it turns out to be, which is just complete bullshit. They're not mutually exclusive. You can both have a great game launch and support that game to have a great long-term future. It's not one or the other. This whole idea of, well, just rush it to release, we can fix it later, it's been the bane of many AAA live services, like Anthem, which recently died. Marvel's Avengers is well on its way, but it would seem as though Todd Howard is hoping to prevent something like this from happening again by noting how the Microsoft acquisition could be beneficial on that front, with PC Gamer reporting that Howard was hopeful that the acquisition by Microsoft will help Bethesda's games be better tested at launch, and that access to the Game Pass ecosystem will enable things like public betas much more easily. So the resources that Microsoft and Xbox will give to Bethesda will mean that internal testing will be more efficient, but beyond that, the Game Pass ecosystem will apparently be utilized in such a way that they can host public betas that people can gain access to so that they can play portions of the game, provide feedback. That was honestly one of the biggest issues with Fallout 76. They basically hosted one beta just like a couple weeks before that game's launch, and it just wasn't enough time for them to be able to take all of that feedback and really address them before the game's launch. They should have hosted that beta much sooner. They should have hosted more betas, or they should have delayed the game after that initial beta so that they could actually fix everything. But instead, they took the route of good enough, released it, and everything went to hell after that. And while Fallout 76 is recovering, Bethesda's reputation will take much longer to recover. And a lot of whether Bethesda can regain that reputation will depend on how this Microsoft acquisition plays out, how much less buggy Bethesda games end up releasing, and how much more they pay attention to overall quality. Now, the Microsoft acquisition will mean that Bethesda will have a much bigger safety net, so they're allowed to take more risks. They don't have to rush a game to release due to financial pressures. Hopefully, the Microsoft acquisition will mean that they'll just get more breathing room to do their best work. And lately, Microsoft has been pretty good about taking feedback and knowing when it's time to delay a game, which is what happened with Halo Infinite, after they revealed that gameplay showcase that disappointed a lot of people because of the visual and technical issues that they saw. So Microsoft said, all right, we're going to delay it by a year and we're going to do this right. So stuff like that makes me optimistic that the same principles can be applied to Bethesda titles as well. Now, as far as game testing goes, one of the things that Todd Howard expressed was that having Game Pass at launch would have made Fallout 76's first months much easier, as that would have enabled public betas much more easily. And also, Todd Howard regretted that he didn't host that beta for free. It was people, I think, who pre-ordered the game that would have access to the beta, which is always a bad idea. You really want to give as many people access to a beta as possible. Obviously, go small scale with a private beta, then expand to a public one, really stress test everything, your game systems, your online infrastructure, and whatnot. Beyond that, Todd Howard expressed in vague terms that Game Pass makes more viable certain kinds of games that a studio like Bethesda might have hesitated to develop in the past, whatever that means. And to really highlight how beneficial this partnership could prove to be for Bethesda, Todd Howard shared a story that when Fallout 76 was struggling after launch, Todd Howard gave Phil Spencer a call, and Phil Spencer helped him by offering aggregate data about similar games to help Bethesda focus on solving its most pressing issues. So behind the scenes, it would seem as though Microsoft helped Fallout 76 recover, and if Microsoft was able to directly help Bethesda to that level, then one can only imagine what those two companies can do now that they've officially partnered, now that they're officially quote-unquote married. I can only imagine that the Microsoft acquisition will mean that the partnership will be that much closer and that Microsoft and Xbox will be able to provide even more aid. And while I'm not going to get my hopes up until I actually get my hands on the next major Bethesda game, likely Starfield, I am going to keep my fingers crossed, and I am going to wish Bethesda and Xbox and everyone involved in this acquisition and all of the projects that they have planned the best of luck, because I really do want to see Bethesda make a comeback, and if Xbox can offer the support and help for Bethesda to do that, then I am all 100% for it. But with all said and done, as I keep saying, actions will speak louder than words. The game releases from Bethesda will speak more than all the hype surrounding this acquisition. But until then, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on Microsoft's acquisition of Bethesda and what your prospects are for Bethesda. Do you think they'll greatly benefit from this partnership? Are you excited for the future, or are you kind of on the fence? Or do you think that there's no way for Bethesda to come back in your eyes? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.